The Last Outlaw has had quite the year. Of course, we talked about last year, perhaps 2022 was one of the more crazy and influential years in your life, starting, ending Effie's career effectively in GCW. And then the character just evolved, man. And next thing you know, you find yourself beating up elderlies in the parking lot and setting pay-per-view independent records. And then you wind up working with AEW of all things. Like, who would have thought you'd be wrestling on a semi-regular basis again? I mean, in 2022, you went from I'm independent and I don't work for anybody to I'm working for everybody. GCW, NWA, WWE, AEW, Jim Crockett Promotions. You checked every box in 2022, but 2023 feels like a year maybe where there was some stuff happening behind the scenes. We got WrestleQuest launched, Hughes Baseball back to back playoff years. There's even talk of an expansion, and maybe there's going to be another stadium. I mean, you accomplished a lot of things outside of the ring. And of course, as we know, you single handedly put Kenny Omega on the shelf. It's been a fun year for you. When you think about your 2023, it's a different year than 2022, but what all do you think you'll think about? If we close your eyes and you blink and bam, oh my gosh, it's 2033, because it'll be here quicker than you imagine. What do you think you'll remember 2023 for the most?
Oh, wow. Well, probably like I've always tried to do when I think of career-wise, it's in front of the camera and behind the camera. Oh gosh, Conrad.
I mean, you started running house shows for AEW.
Well, okay, you want to behind the scenes. Okay, that is the most simplest term. That when I came to kind of terms with AEW, it was, hey, we're going to want you to appear on camera some, not a lot, but we really want you to come in and business development. Non-televised live events is one thing, and maybe international thing here or there, and maybe some different concepts and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I love it. And Conrad, you know me, you mentioned, the deal from baseball to the gaming, our podcast. I love business. My competitive juices get flowing. When my feet hit the ground in the morning, I always love for something to be, I don't want to be pushed out of bed. I want to be pulled out of bed. And if I kind of live my mindset that way, which I do, life is fun. And the house rules thing, up and running, and probably, I don't know, 20 to 30 and another 20 to 30 in Q3 and 4. We had all kinds of mindsets and plans, and let's ebb and flow and only commit to these and commit to that. It just crawl, walk, run, the same kind of business philosophy. And then this little show called Collision popped down in the middle of it. And all those were just literally all the plans for house rules were pump the brakes, in which I completely understand. 2 hours of primetime television always will take precedent. And that is, kind of the nature of the industry. And that's where we're at. But, as I come into, we won't get into that because that's 2024, but, lots of stuff going on internationally that I'm working on. And obviously Wembley, what an incredible opportunity to just be a small part, a teeny part, or whatever part you want to say, but in the business development side of it, Conrad, when you're in this industry and at the very core of professional wrestling, we're an event business. That's the very core of what we do is live events. Some are televised, some are not televised, but they're all events. And to be a part of the biggest event in professional wrestling history, as live attendance goes, in London. I love my UK. I love everything about that city, and just it's got a personality all to itself. But to be a part of that, Conrad, how can that not be at the very top of my list of gratitude of 2023 to just be a part of that. And look, we could go through, we'll talk about in-ring in a second, but just to be a part of, I'm very thankful for the baseball. WrestleQuest is off and running, but wrestling is at my very core and third generation. To be a part of Wembley and set that record and see that process go from, hey, it's time to run an event in the UK to we're going to go to London, we're going to go to Wembley, not stadium, I mean not arena, stadium, and then to be a part of that and go over and do a PR tour, which I've done. I don't know how many I've done in my life, 10, 15 with the TNA years, multiple different trips over there to promote things. I did a spoken word tour there, but to be a part of that and do a guitar smash on Talk Sport as a build up at this stage, all of those were in a lot of ways really, Conrad, we've joked and laughed and you always get me tickled, but at this stage of my career, Grado in the history that he has with my family, and his legacy, if you will, in the UK scene. He is a full-time actor and everything that goes with that, but come from the independent scene. He's got such an incredible amount of charisma. But to be on that stage with Sanjay and Jay and Karen and Satnam and Grado and hell, Tony Schiavone in the ring, and we got to tell him to get the hell out. That Wembley event, I can't tell you how special that is. It is a memory of a lifetime, no doubt. And we're up and running again and going back, pal.
AEWTix.com. That's AEWTIX.com. I didn't even think about it until you started talking about how big that moment was, because we don't think about it that way right now, but we certainly talked about it before it happened. This will be remembered as like AEW's WrestleMania 3 moment, like their big high watermark moment. And regardless of what happened before or after, that moment will live on and it will be famous forever. And I suspect that guys who were on that card will be signing autographs on those photos and posters for decades to come.
Yep.
And to think that, man, your dad just barely missed it.
Oh boy.
Like, I know he loved the Flair stuff and all that, but the idea that you would have been able, the promoter and him would have loved to have just taken a look at that crowd and looked around and thought, this is what's possible. Right.
When I stood in Wembley Stadium that Sunday morning, I text my pastor, but as I'm looking around and kind of doing my mental checklist of, wow, this is pretty damn cool. I can assure you, I thought of my father and my grandmother, because how many shows, the weekly territory, but how many wrestling shows, specifically both of them, about, just the real bare basics of, my dad and my grandfather teaching me how to load a wrestling ring on a trailer so you can pull it and the weights kind of stayed balanced. And my grandmother telling me, this is what we're buying for the concession stand, and this is how much we're buying, and this is why we're buying it, and we're loading it up, and we got to get there at this time, and hanging posters, she called them window cards, in small towns in Kentucky and Tennessee and Mississippi and Arkansas and Southern Indiana and all that, just kind of the life of a promoter. And fast forward to August of 2023 in the most famous stadium in the world. SoFi new, and it's very cool. And, we could go down
history and legacy and all that. Yeah.
Wembley 100.
Yeah.
Come on. It is, for any person in this industry, it's right up there at the tip top of memories.
We got to also talk about, some of the things that were happening in the wrestling business. The WWE started the year off really, really hot.
Conrad, real quick, before we move on that, what will I remember about AEW? That was kind of behind the scenes. as we started up top, we were talking about Briscoe, and I was going through research last night, and I thought about 2022, the Flair match. That was just obviously with your involvement, where we both know the kind of how all that. I mean, from the press conference, but if you back up even before the press conference, that hey, we're going to put tickets on sale. Oh, wait, Conrad, they went clean.
Yeah, right away.
And it's Rick and others. Oh, wait, we might want to go to another building. Well, don't you think we should figure out the rest of the card before we make that decision? Just all the things that were out of your head of putting that together. I mean, I got to referee in Titan Stadium at SummerSlam, Crockett Cup, GC, all that kind of stuff. But then you go into 2023. If I would have just had the concession stand brawl, that would have been such a tip of the cap to my father in the coolest way. But the concession stand brawl, some folks hate it, some folks love it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
My match that was sponsored and really dressed up, and the importance that was put on it from a network perspective. I got to wrestle OC, and I think he was just what an incredible role Orange Cassidy was on this summer and everything, and got to have a one-on-one challenge with him. And then you go down to Memphis, and I did media tour and got to talk about all the glory years of the territory and all that. And then I stomped a mud hole in Eddie Kingston's ass and walked it dry. But a Memphis street fight, I just kind of look at the highlights of in-ring. I'm like, Conrad, it was a hell of a year. I mean, it really was. So, and I'm very grateful. And that is why I continue to get up and bust my ass at the gym. So stay in shape, pal.